Welcome to the Decision Lab podcast, the sanctuary for wellness professionals like therapists, coaches, creators, and more who are looking to over-deliver to their clients.
We uncover the truth behind cutting-edge wellness products by going straight to the founder.
We use our backgrounds in neuroscience, chemical engineering, and marketing to ask the hard questions in order to eliminate bias, misinformation, and fancy marketing language,
allowing you to make better wellness decisions and recommendations for yourself and your clients.
So if you're a leader in the health and wellness space, welcome. This podcast was designed for you.
Join us every week for interviews that will change how you think about wellness. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Decision Lab podcast. Today, we're talking to Alan Graves. Alan is the CEO of DoNotAge.org, a global health research organization and pure supplement provider with a compelling mission to extend healthy lifespan for as many people as possible. And he's also a future astronaut with Virgin Galactic and an avid boxer. So welcome to the Decision Lab podcast, Alan. Super excited to have you here.
Well, thank you, Chloe. It's my honor to speak to you.
Okay, so what really got you interested in the longevity field in the first place?
I started to sort of feel the effects of aging a lot earlier than most, and that's kind of led me down. That led me down a path of first realization that the fact that aging was malleable, because I was brought up to believe that aging is just something that happens to everybody. You can't really do much about it. And of course, we know that's incorrect. So I think that was the reason why I ended up going down this route.
And what were your symptoms of early aging? What was that like for you?
Aches and pains, things not being able to do the things physically that I used to be able to do in the same capacity. And, part of proving my bounce back ability on this anti-aging journey was, becoming the pro boxer, because that's definitely a young man's sport.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I've proven that I've bounced my body back, which is good.
Wow, that's amazing. Let's kind of dive into building and operating DoNotAge.org. Maybe talk me through what have been some of your biggest challenges, personally and professionally, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of challenges, but the first thing I would probably say is if your mission is big enough, then there's not going to be any challenge that you can't overcome.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the mindset that you approach it with is probably the most important part. I think the great thing for me was, especially in the early days, I sort of had I could see the direct impact that our work was having on people. So we would get direct feedback from DoNotAge.org members. And listen, there's a lot of people that aren't going to feel the benefits for the next 10 years because they are taking it as a preventative. I understand that. But of course, the most powerful stories at the moment come from people who are already suffering. And then they use DoNotAge information and products to basically make their life a hell of a lot better. And and that keeps you motivated. Again, helps you to overcome any challenges. And listen, there's been a hell of a lot, because this is a lot of it was new to me. I wasn't used to dealing with scientists. I wasn't used to dealing with the public. I wasn't used to dealing with other companies that would say things that aren't true about you because they don't like you being successful. And so, yeah, there's been a hell of a lot, and operationally, it can be difficult as well sometimes. There's the manufacturing process as well, which is extremely difficult, especially at first when you've not done it before. And so you have to do a lot of trial and error. But again, I think the most important thing for me is if the why is big enough, then you always find the how,
Yeah, I love that. I completely agree. So something we always like to talk about on this podcast is who you are, but maybe not necessarily in your own words. So if we ask maybe your mom or your dad, what qualities would they talk about the most in relation to you?
I think if you spoke to my mom, then she would only say positive things, because that's just how she is.
Mm-hmm.
I think my dad might be more upfront. I think they would both say generous. I think they would agree that I am impatient, very impatient, definitely. Loyal, hardworking, and family orientated. I think that's the ones they would go with.
Love that. As a leader, maybe as a friend, what would you want people to say about you?
I inspired them to be better.
Mm-hmm.
That I made them a better version of themselves. I think I think I'd go with that.
So on this journey, like who have you looked up to? Who has inspired you?
My biggest inspiration has got to be my parents. I think
Hmm.
definitely in terms of looking up to them and what they did and the situation we were in, and socioeconomically, and still being able to raise three children who have all gone on to do really well and be good people, I think is testament to why they're an inspiration to me.
That's really beautiful. Okay, talk to me about your boxing journey. I'm so curious. I want to hear all about it and also kind of how it's like influenced you as a person and also as a CEO.
Well, I can talk to you about I did that. I trained when I was living out in Dubai. I lived there for about 6 months, and yeah, so I was training there. I was fortunate enough to be able to live with my coaches. There's not much else to do but train. And so in between sort of calls for Do Not Age and research, I was, being beat up by my coaches. And of course, a very strict diet as well. And a lot of the training and a lot of the diet is really healthy to perspective. But of course, getting punched in the head's not so, it's not recommended for longevity. But, we all have our vices, and that's mine. In terms of a person, I think it's made me even more disciplined, and it makes you sort of respect that discipline a lot. Now I know what goes into a boxing camp. It's, yeah, you have to have a lot of respect and discipline. And then as a CEO, I don't know if it's changed me too much. Maybe relax me a little bit,
Hmm.
because kind of shows me that there's, if something goes wrong, it's not life and death. So, help me to stay even calmer under pressure, I think.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a powerful learning lesson as a leader and when you're running a business because things do feel life and death sometimes and it can really
Yeah.
get in your own head. Do
Yeah.
you have any practices like when you get really stressed or maybe have imposter syndrome?
Um, I Not really, but I think my main MO is to just do the work, like
Mhm.
ignoring external factors and sort of how I'm feeling. I tend to find that if you just do the work, when you get up in the morning, doesn't matter if you're busy or there's some big news story, you
Mhm.
slept funny and you hurt your neck, or your partner's pissing you off, or you're hungover, or you've run out of money, or whatever it is. Like, there's no excuse to not do the work. And I always feel better once the work's done, whatever the problem it was in the first place. So I guess that's what I do.
I like that. That's really helpful. I think it's like Layla Hormozi who she says like fuck how you feel, follow the plan. And I've always loved that. And especially as someone
Yeah.
I've struggled my whole life with anxiety and I have let it take over. And usually that anxiety has to do with procrastination and not starting anyways. And so I think once you get that initial momentum happening, it kind of changes everything. And it can shift your day. You can have the worst start ever and then you can get into work and something good can happen or you get into a flow state and then all of a sudden your day is better.
Yeah, and I
And
think sometimes thinking about the thing is worse than just doing the thing.
yes. Yeah. And in this day and age, and I don't know how like much time you spend on social media, but you see,
Zero.
I guess, high value people having these crazy routines in the morning. Like, I mean, I meditate, that's my one thing. I meditate every single day, and that's my one thing. But, meditating, journaling, working out, having these like 3 to 4 hour routines before they start their day. And I'm just like, I feel like that just takes so much time and almost puts this like, I don't know, pressure on if I don't do these things, then I'm not going to get the work done or not have a good day.
Yeah, and listen, I think everyone's different. I certainly wouldn't want to speak for everyone, but for me, I'd rather have a cup of coffee and then just get on with it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm super curious about this, but in your bio, it says you're a future astronaut with Virgin Atlantic. So tell me about this.
Virgin Galactic.
Virgin Galactic,
If
sorry,
you
Galactic.
Yeah, if you end up in space on Virgin Atlantic, you've
Yeah.
definitely taken a wrong.
You can tell I haven't had my coffee yet.
I've seen a lot of interviews from people that have, again, I didn't know going to space was possible. Like, I just thought it was like a couple astronauts. That was it. I didn't know you could commercially go there. So I'm learning all the time. And I'd seen a lot of interviews from people that have been to space and look back at the Earth, and they always seem to have a new, fresh perspective and on life, and it kind
Mhm.
of helps them a lot when they come back to Earth. So I wanted a piece of that action, and I get on well with Richard, so yeah. I'm going to space within the next couple of years.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool and so exciting. What's the preparation process like for that?
So far, what I know is it's about a month before, maybe 3 weeks before, you go and do a little bit of training,
Mhm.
and then you get fitted for a spacesuit, which obviously you get to keep afterwards because it's fitted to you. But then it does mean that, for a few weeks, you can't balloon in weight either way because you
Yes.
have a fitted suit to use. But I'm sure I'll be fine. And I think the training is in New Mexico. In fact, we were looking, funny, we were looking to buy some land for Do Not Age back in 2020 for what would have been then our first USA manufacturing plant. And the same piece of land we were looking to buy was bought by the Virgin Group as
Oh,
part
no
of
way.
like the space, sort of they call it spaceport, where they take off and do all the training and stuff. So it was, it turned out to be quite funny when, me and Richard found out we were both trying to buy the same piece of land.
Wow, what a small world. Are you nervous at all about going up or mostly excited?
No, I'm definitely not nervous. I mean, I might change my mind, 5 minutes before, but no, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Gosh. Yeah, that is going to be just such a cool experience, an amazing experience that not a lot of people get to have.
Yeah, so I find I get a 50-50 split of response from people. Some people go, I'd love to go. And some people go, there's no way you couldn't pay me to go. So which one are you?
I would go. I would absolutely do it.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, I love doing things that are off the beaten path and,
Yeah.
I think exploring space is kind of another way of exploring consciousness in a sense. And so I love doing those kind of things, whether that's, like psychedelics or really challenging, athletic feats. I love kind of pushing the boundaries of what I do and experience. And so I think
Yeah.
space would be so insanely cool. How long do you go for?
Yeah, I'm excited. It's under an hour. It's not like a long time. Hopefully won't get stuck there for 6 months like those people that are on the space station at the moment.
Yeah, that's wild. Hopefully it's an hour and you make it back. I'm sure you'll be safe and it'll probably be such a mind-blowing experience and
Yeah,
probably
I hope
shift your
so.
perspective a lot on life. Let's shift back to the supplements.
Okay.
Why did you start Do Not Age? Like, what was kind of the loophole and the vacancy in the market? Because there's lots of supplement companies out there.
Okay, well, I guess the first thing to say is we're not a supplement company.
Yeah.
We provide supplements as well as other
Mhm.
things, but no, definitely not a supplement company. I think supplement companies tend to sell what people will search for, what they think people will buy. They'll include fillers, and they won't include the right dosages for health outcomes. Oftentimes, quality is missing, whereas a health research organization is just focused on health outcomes. All we care
Yeah.
about is what works, what doesn't, whether it works, how much it works, and then at the end of that all we'll manufacture the product and then go, okay, it cost us this much, so we'll charge this much,
Hmm.
which is a very different way of doing things rather than, in fact, it's completely the opposite to a supplement company where they go, well, we think we could sell this for $20. So let's work backwards from that and see what we want to put it in and how much and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's very different. I guess we kind of created the market really for proper health research organizations.
Yeah, I love that. You're flipping it on its head. You're
Hmm.
doing,
Yeah.
very outcome focused. And as somebody who has taken Do Not Age supplements, like I've actually noticed there's such a difference in the way you treat people and deal with your customers. Like I just felt so cared for during the entire process, and then even everything from like the instructions on how to take it and things like that. And so I think you guys are like really doing something special and unique.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you, first of all, for supporting our research. And I'm glad the team were looking after you. I
Hmm.
think it all stems from, it's all systemic. So if you're, either a large biotech or a small supplement company, either way, your main goal is just to make money. And so the large
Yeah.
biotech will have investors that need profit. The small supplement company, you might just be someone trying to make a side hustle, right? With Do Not Age, we're all self-funded, so we don't have anybody to answer to. Nobody's trying to make a profit.
Mhm.
We succeeded ethically and because we deliver what people need. And it's, our mission is to keep that going for as long as we can and change it from helping, 300,000 people globally to 3 million to 3 billion and so on and so forth.
Who is your ideal customer at Dunage? Like, do you kind of have a range of certain people that you're wanting to help, or is it kind of like one specific target person that you're shooting for right now?
No, it's an adult human that wants to be healthy. That's pretty much it. But we don't do the kind of profiling stuff, which again I think is usually tends to be something that like a normal supplement company might do because they want to tell their social media accounts to target these people or whatever, right?
Yeah.
We would rather focus on making sure that our products are giving people superior health outcomes, and then let whoever wants to find us. And whether that's a 70-year-old that's riddled with age-related diseases or a 30-year-old that wants to prevent future disease, we're here to help.
Tell me a little bit about the research that you've got going on.
Sure. I mean, where to start? So,
Yes, there's a lot.
which products did you say you were taking from?
Okay, so I was taking the SIRT6 activator, so I'd love it if you'd speak to that one because I know you have some research coming up on that.
Yeah.
NMN, and this was the one because you can probably speak so much to like longevity supplements, and what you said earlier was like a lot of people won't notice the effects because they won't get cancer or they won't get diabetes, but you don't wake up every day and feel the difference. And NMN was one where I was like, whoa, I have substantially more energy since taking it.
Yes, precisely. And that's very. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And the third one was sulforaphane, the other one that I really like.
Sulfur boost, yeah. That one's again something we're very proud of, the most powerful sulforaphane booster in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you wanted me to touch on SIRT6 Activator. So
Yeah.
for those, I'm assuming your audience will know what sirtuins are, or do I need to?
Maybe let's just not assume that everyone knows what sirtuins are, so anybody can understand.
So essentially, sirtuins are proteins that do the repair work in your body. And if you think of aging as your body having its normal day-to-day damage, and then over time being less good at being able to repair itself. And so what happens is these sirtuins slow down, they run out of fuel, and therefore that then shows itself as aging. Now, in order to combat that, we need to, first of all, give those sirtuins more fuel, which we do with NAD and NMN, which I'm sure we'll come on to. And then we need to activate them as well. So give them that accelerator pedal, which is the often used analogy. So we set out the 7 sirtuins, SIRT1 all the way to SIRT7, and we set out to find an activator for SIRT6, which is the most important one. It's the one that we see as most active in centenarians and supercentenarians that are still healthy. It's the one that Professor Gorbanova has tried to specialize in as best she can because the data shows us that's clearly the most important, often referred to as the longevity gene. And so we managed to find a few potential candidates, and ultimately we have identified a strain from seaweed, initially from seaweed, that activates sirtuin 6 very, very strongly, and it's now our most popular ingredient. So that is our number one selling ingredient, and helps hundreds of thousands of people across the world. So we're very, very proud of that because that was also the first one that was like fully from everything from start to finish was done by do-not-age.org. So we were really, proud of that. And it's because the benefits of activated sirtuin 6 compound over time. People that started taking SIRT6 activated 2 years ago are now in incredible shape 2 years on, and that's going to keep continuing and continuing. So when we get to the 10-year mark, we're going to see some ridiculous results, which is fantastic for us. So we had a mouse trial initially, and we had to keep extending the trial because the mice taking SIRT6 activator wouldn't die. They kept staying alive. And in the end, as vicious as this might sound, because you have to sort of chop them up and look at their organs and look at everything, in the end we had to kill them. I know it sounds terrible, but all in the name of science. And they just wouldn't die naturally. And obviously all the control mice had already died naturally.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really, really fantastic. A very, very powerful study to the point where Professor Gorbanova said we have to get this in humans immediately. And so the first human trial that we set up was SIRT6 Activator, a group of people that have had cancer and they have come out the other side of it. And then we're going to give half of them SIRT6 and obviously half of them a placebo. And we believe that the group taking SIRT6 Activator won't see any recurrence of tumors, which is obviously a very powerful human trial.
Yes.
The problem with that is it's going to take many years, probably a decade before it's published. So, this world is an impatient world. And I'm an impatient man as well, as we've touched on. I had a conversation with Andrea Meyer, who runs the National University of Singapore. And she's also knows Professor Gorbanova, our lead researcher. And we have decided to do a human trial that's going to take about 12 months. So we can get a much faster publication. And that's just going to be looking at various different epigenetic clocks and biological ages, uh, and looking at this sort of like the Grim Age score, frailty, and walking speed, and all these different measurements that we can do and show that SIRT6 activators having a really positive impact on humans, even within that 6 to 12 month time frame. So yeah, that's something we're doing, and because we're doing it in Singapore, it's actually a lot easier and faster. The way the Singapore system's set up is set up for speed and to get things done, whereas the FDA in the US is no comment.
Yeah. No comment. Wow, I can't wait to see those results. I'm so excited for you guys.
Yeah, super, super excited.
And something I'm really curious about, there was recently an NMN lawsuit, and I know that you guys were on the side and fighting to help save NMN. And can you tell me a little bit about this lawsuit and like what happened?
Sure. So there's a company called Metro Biotech, pharmaceutical
Mhm.
company, and they filed like patents and drug protection paperwork for something called MIB 626, which was touted as being a super NAD booster, which would be superior to NMN. And I believe what happened was they couldn't make anything that's superior to, because NMN is what your body naturally uses to then convert into NAD. So it's going to be very difficult to make something better than that. So I believe what happened was they couldn't find anything better. And so in the end, they said, okay, well, we don't want to waste our money. And, pharmaceutical companies like to own the drug and the money. And so they said, well, MIB626 is just our name for NMN. So they tried to get NMN taken off the market as a dietary supplement so that you could only get it as a drug, which would probably mean higher prices and would definitely mean more difficult to get hold of.
Mm.
So obviously this is not a good thing. Thankfully, it's against the FDA's own rules. So we thought this will blow over, but the FDA is funded about 75% by pharmaceutical money. There's I won't dive into that. I'll let people make their own conclusions.
Mm.
So the FDA released a statement back in November of 2022, and that statement said basically you can't sell NMN as a dietary supplement. And we, amongst others, contacted them and said, hey, that's not true. These are your own rules. You're breaking your own rules. It doesn't make sense.
Mm.
And we didn't hear anything from them. It was never enforced. So everything was fine up until recently when a few shipments started getting seized. Now, as you know, we have local manufacturing and local shipping all over the world, so we're okay.
Mhm.
There was a larger shipment for someone else that got stuck, and then we had one, but it was a tiny one. Like, so if I can't remember what happened, but for some reason there was someone in a state in America that specifically requested we send it from the UK. So we said no problem because our head office is still in the UK.
Mhm.
And so we shipped it out and that got stopped and, seized as it were. So yeah, there's been some rumblings recently. And then what happened was the NPA, which is the Natural Products Association, they filed a lawsuit against the FDA to protect consumers. And
Mhm.
we've supported that financially and we've got on board with them. And I think in times like this, you need to join forces with those that are trying to do the right thing and trying to do the same thing as you,
Mhm.
because the FDA is a big, big opponent.
Mhm.
And I think it's important that there is a precedent. There was something called NAC,
Mhm.
which is N-acetylcysteine, and they tried to do the same thing with that 2020-ish.
Mhm.
And then eventually that got reversed because people kicked off enough. So we're just trying to kick off enough to make them reverse the decision on NMN. At the moment, everything's still fine. You can still order. We've got no problems.
Mhm.
And we'll keep fighting. But we have a plan B, plan C, plan D. So I'm not
Amazing.
concerned.
Okay, so no need to stockpile NMN just yet.
No need to stockpile. You wouldn't believe the amount of people we get emailing us. Okay, I'm going to buy 5 years worth. I'm like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that.
Okay, one question I had was, for the general population, if I was, maybe a friend of yours, kind of like healthy, maybe somebody in their like mid-30s, but is on like just starting a longevity journey and they had no idea
Yeah.
where to start. And they came to you and they're like, Alan, I want to, purchase a few things. Like what maybe like 3 to 5 items would you recommend that they start with from Do Not Age?
Well, we have a starter pack, so we made that specifically because that was the most common question we would get. and essentially just contains all the most popular items, right? So it's your SIRT6, your Sulfura Boost, your NMN, etc. So I'd recommend people start with that. Originally, we only provided it in a 6-month supply, but recently we've added a 1-month supply as well because, we've realized that some people are just dipping their toes, which is fine. But I would recommend, if people can, to go for the 6 months because, again, some people will feel a difference on day one, some people won't. I think, especially if you're, say even you're 40 years old, you've been aging for 40 years. I think to expect miracles in 1 month is a little bit unrealistic. So this is something that people should seriously consider because it's something that you get the most benefit out of when you stick at it.
Yeah, I think the 6 month, the big bottles you guys have is brilliant. And I'm sorry, I have ADHD. So for me to remember to order something every single month and keep on top of it, like I'm terrible with that. So the fact that I can get,
Nice.
large supply is so handy, I think. And so you guys at donotage.org, you have at-home testing kits as well,
Yep.
which I think is really cool. I haven't had the chance to try those yet, but maybe can you talk to us about some of the testing kits and maybe like how accurate they are and how they help?
Sure. Well, they're extremely accurate. If they weren't accurate, they wouldn't be much use. So it depends on the kit. There's an epigenetic age, biological age kit, which uses your saliva. There is an NAD test kit, which is, again, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. And what we mentioned earlier, that's the fuel for those sirtuins. It's also the fuel for pretty much every other process in your cells as well. So it's extremely important. We have less of it as we age, and boosting it back up with things like NMN that we've discussed is very important. And so a lot of people want to test their NAD levels because if they're young and healthy, maybe they're not sure if they need a booster. And if they're older, they may think, well, I've been on NMN for a month. I'm going to test my levels. Do I need more NMN? Do I need less NMN? Am I on the right amount? And so that's why we created that kit. It's super easy to use. It is blood, but it's not like you don't need a jug. It's just a little pinprick. So you prick your finger and then the blood drops onto this special card. And then you put that in the mail. And within a week or so, you've got your results. And then we can give personalized recommendations based on those results as well. And then the final one, which is the most recent addition, is we have an omega-3 and vitamin D test kit. So things like NAD and biological age are a little bit more intense, and biohackers and people in this world know about it and know how important it is. But then if you look at some of the basics, omega-3 and vitamin D are what I would consider pretty basic, and the vast majority of people, particularly in the Western world, USA, Canada, Australia, UK, are deficient in these two. And so, we created this kit just to make it nice and easy for people, to know their levels of omega-3 and vitamin D. And I think that kit's pretty cheap too. I want to say it's like $99.
It's super cool, and you're right. Like a lot of people also don't know that they're low in omega-3s and vitamin D, and those play such a huge role in mood and brain function. And just getting those levels up to normal can be actually like truly life-changing for some people.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
I mean, living in Canada, I live in, the Northern Hemisphere, and there is such a stark contrast in spring and summer. And then in winter, I am supplementing with a lot of vitamin D just to keep my mood at a regular place.
Nice.
What's in the future for donotage.org? Like, what are you working on next?
That's a good question. Where do I start with this? Well, I think the real answer is we're working on a lot of things, like a lot of things at the moment, at any one time. But maybe it would be nice to focus on the gut. I think people are starting to understand that now in health, that the gut is intrinsically linked to all of our health, and particularly the brain and even mental health. Our new prebiotic product, we know, even just from the testing we've done, we know that the gut is way more important than previously recognized. So we have lots of exciting things that we're working on. It's going to be coming out in 2025. Not new products, but new data and how to use the products and things like that. So, the best way to stay up to date with that is to join our email list. Hopefully, your audience is already on there. That just tends to be how we to communicate with people, because emails are great because we can give out that information pretty much immediately. And, if anybody doesn't want to receive updates about the science, they can unsubscribe. And so we're only ever talking to people that want to listen, which is perfect for both parties.
As like a biohacker, what kind of like longevity or health innovation are you really excited about that's maybe going to come up in the next 10 to 20 years?
I would say the epigenetic reprogramming. I don't know. Have you read about this?
No. Okay. Tell me more.
Okay, so I'll imagine this is for everyone again. Genetics, hopefully people know what that is. It's your genes, you can't change it. And then epigenetics, epi just means on top of. So it's kind of like something that sits on top of your genes and tells them which ones to turn on and off. And over time, that signal gets a bit distressed and it
Hmm.
can't quite read it how it should. And so the cells aren't acting how they are programmed to because of these epigenetic marks, if you like. And so epigenetic reprogramming is essentially like polishing those genes. So it gives it the ability to play itself like it was young again. So it's like giving your cells a factory reset. And I think
Hmm.
that's the best way to explain it. And I think that those cumulative changes in how genes are switched on and off, like I say, we've seen proof that this can be reversed, which is really, really powerful. Now, that proof at the moment is in monkeys and mice and various different things, but we know that that's just the start of doing it for humans. If that gets to where we think it can get to, and you could get to the point in 10 or 15 years when you just go to the doctor and he just resets your cells once a year, which would be pretty incredible.
Wow. And so how does this cell resetting happen? Is it like a bunch of different kind of like healing modalities coming together? Is there one specific treatment that they're using for this?
Yeah, so it's one specific treatment. It's called the Yamanaka factors. I won't dive too much into the science, but again, essentially it's like a gene therapy where it reverses and resets those cells. It's like I say, it's very early at the moment because it's monkeys and mice and that kind of thing. I think one of the initial trials they used a mouse's eye, and the optic nerve is similar-ish to humans, and they crushed the mouse's optic nerve. So obviously that mouse is then blind, and then they gave it this epigenetic reprogramming treatment, and the optic nerve cells regrew and it regained its sight. Yeah, so really, really incredible. And the reason they chose the eye is because it's one of the most complicated and complex organs. And they thought, well, if we can do it with the eye, then in theory, we should be able to do it with everything. So yeah, it's absolutely incredible science.
Wow. Thank you for my next rabbit hole. Very excited to learn more about this.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that is so cool. I think that can definitely change a lot of lives and also just for longevity, but for, trauma medicine and healing and, regeneration. Like that is incredible.
Well, that's where it will start, right? It's similar to Elon Musk's Neuralink, which is like the probes in your brain kind of thing. That's not going to be turning people into superhumans straight away. That's going to be people that can't walk, being able to walk again, and that kind of thing, right? So it'll be the same thing with epigenetic reprogramming. But
Mhm.
I think maybe 15, 20 years away. Our job until then is just to stay as healthy as we can.
Yeah, yeah. Would you ever get like a Neuralink or like implantable brain device? I always think of this.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never say never,
So never.
but I am a pretty analog guy. I don't have the social media. I don't really like somebody had to set this call up for me. I'm not great with all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that scares me a little bit. But maybe I'm just
Hmm.
being a Luddite, and maybe if everyone else has one, then I'll
Hmm.
reconsider. But we'll see.
Time will tell. Okay, well, as we're coming up on time, we have a few kind of signature rapid fire questions that we'll run through.
Okay.
The first one is, what's one question you wish more people asked you?
But what can I do to improve my longevity?
Well, I'm going to ask you that right now. What can I do to improve my longevity?
No, I mean, there's lots of things is the answer, but I think the reason I want more people to ask me that question is because if people understood that could, aging is malleable and they could do something about it, then more people would ask me. And I think the reason more people don't ask me is because they don't even realize it's a thing.
Mm,
And so once somebody asks me, then I know they've already overcome that first hurdle, which I had to overcome myself only 5 years ago, which is understanding that aging doesn't have to be as simple as getting old and frail.
yes. Yeah. And I think it's really powerful when somebody finally realizes like how much autonomy they have over their health.
freeing. It's very freeing.
So liberating. Yeah, absolutely. So on this podcast, we're really big on just, helping your guests, helping consumers as much as possible. So what's a partnership or a connection that would really help you outside of that connection, just giving you money?
I guess somebody that has the voice of most people. So maybe I forget what the leader of India's name is, but like the Indian Prime Minister, maybe that's like 1.5 billion people. Elon Musk has access to, I don't know, 500 million Twitter users or X or whatever it's called these days. So someone like that, someone with access to a lot of people where we could spread information and say, hey, you don't have to age, just like your grandma did,
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to put it out there for you.
Sounds good to
If
me.
I get the Indian president, though, I want like a lifetime supply of NMN.
I can make that happen. I can make that happen.
And so the last two questions, we always ask the former podcast guest a question for the next guest. And so this is from Bjorn Eckerberg from the Flux Beam. And his question was, what's kind of one daily either like habit or ritual that you have that adds a lot of value to your life?
What's one daily habit? I think I might have to go back to my initial answer, which is do the work. That would be, I think I'd rather say a good answer twice than give two different answers.
I like that.
Yeah, that would be my daily habit and recommendation. Do the work. Stop thinking about it and do the work.
Okay. And what's a question, maybe a question we should have asked you that we should ask the next wellness company?
The next wellness company specifically, something to do with wellness.
Yeah, health, wellness, biotech.
In the last 12 months, how have you supported the advancement of the science of longevity?
Ooh, I like that one. Okay. I can't wait to ask it.
Yeah.
Well,
I think,
thank you.
yeah, because most companies kind of don't have like a circle, right? So they'll create something that they think the consumer might want, and then they'll sell that, and then that's kind of the end of it. Whereas ours is a full loop, right? So the money goes back into the research, which makes better products, which makes happier members, and so they pay us, and it goes back into the research, and so on and so on and so on, until we've solved aging. That's the idea, and we're trying to encourage others to do the same thing too.
Wow, that's so impactful, and that perspective really does, in my mind, set you apart from most people in this field. That closed loop until you solve aging, and I can't wait until you solve that problem. Well, I think that's like the perfect note to end on. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. You were such like a wealth of knowledge and information, and it was really nice to get to know you and really understand DoNotAge.org's like mission a lot better, because I think you guys are doing things the right way, and what you're doing is going to change a lot of lives.
We're trying our best. Well, thank you for having us on, Chloe. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you so much.